Sports Talk in the Burgh. The best and worst, most serious and silliest, cleanest and smelliest show to take place on Wednesdays at 5:15 in the afternoon. I am your best looking and ugliest host, Brett McGulick. Joining me today, the Freshman Power Hour. Well, actually, Freshman 30 Minutes. Returns the freshman AP of the show, Joey Dramasic, and elite ball knower, Caden Hyde. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me.
Good to be here. Good to be here.
Kicking off our show today, the show is called Sports Talk in the Burgh, right? Where we sports talk in the Burgh. But we're going to take it even more local. The show today, we're going to call the show Sports Talk in Hoop Township, because the Colonials men's basketball team is on fire and has secured an Horizon League regular season championship, best $28 I've ever spent, for the first time ever, as well as a #1 seed in the Horizon League tournament and a home playoff game. If the Colonials win the Horizon League title, they continue the dance to March Madness, with the Stars firing on all cylinders. Will we see this team win a March Madness matchup for the first time ever? Joey, what do you think about this?
The answer is yes, yes, yes. This team has won 13 out of their last 14 games. They're on a 7-game winning streak. They would be on a 14-game winning streak if they didn't lose to Wright State, who they play tomorrow, which kind of is concerning. It's concerning a little bit. But I definitely think that they can with their winning streak. You know, you want hot teams going into March Madness. They're 8-3 versus the non-conference, you know, with their losses against Ohio, West Virginia. West Virginia was kind of a tough start. As you see here, the men's and women's team, with the men's overall with a 23-8 record, with the women's team 14-15, but they also did have a very slow start to the season. They've been playing a lot better towards the end of the year. And I think if we're looking at the men's side, it's almost, if they win this Horizon League tournament, I think once they get to the tournament, it's a guaranteed. If the women's team could somehow make it to March Madness, maybe some questions. Katie,
Yeah, I think this women's team is a pretty good team, right? Especially considering the culture change, like the coach change, everything that changed over the past year. Like they had an 18-game losing streak from last season, and just for Coach Chandler McCabe to come in here and turn this organization around completely, to them now having a home playoff game in the Horizon League tournament, it's just commendable all around. And as we've seen with this women's team, when they're on, they're really on, and when they're off, they're really off. Recently, they've been very on, like against Youngstown State. Caitlin Chomko hit 4 threes in the second quarter. And it's March. Anything can happen. It's a one-game tournament. Who knows? Colonials could beat Northern Kentucky this week, go into Green Bay and upset them. Anything can happen. Anything can happen.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about the women's team that I am scared about is those top 3 teams. When we've played Cleveland State, which is the 3rd seed, we've played them twice. We've lost by 30 twice. So I just think the gap between the 3 and the 4 seed, which Colonials are the 4 seed, I just think it's too great for them to possibly even make the tournament. But, you know, you said it's March. That's a fair statement. And for the men's side, like, I've seen predictions about us being a 15 seed. 15 seeds they win a couple games. They win a couple games against the 2 seeds. There's been 4 in the past 10 years.
Let's not forget what happened last year, too.
And I was
Oakland, Horizon League team.
Horizon League team.
Exactly.
Horizon League has some good representation over there.
Love to see Ryan Prather come off the bench, drop 30 points like Jack Golke.
It's going to be, if they're going to be on, like Noah Gavon. If she's on, the Colonials could upset anyone in this Horizon League tournament. Maybe not the whole tournament.
Shooting like 45% from 3 over the past 5 games.
It's been fantastic.
If she's on, she's on.
I mean, these teams have both been on. I mean, sure, the women's record is not as strong as the men's is, but I don't think that does it justice of what this team has been able to do these past month or so. They're hot right now. Both these teams have a good chance, I'd say.
Records don't matter now.
Not right now. They don't. It's a 0-0 slate. And it is safe to say that the campus and us are on the Colonials bandwagon, and the tickets are selling out for the matchups tomorrow night. Is this going to be a new norm for these teams? Should we expect this again next year? Or is this title a once-in-a-lifetime thing? Caden, what do you think about this?
The biggest thing I put in my notes is perhaps. It depends on a lot of things. It depends on whether the coaches stay, whether the stars stay, which we'll get into in a minute. And plus, it depends on if you can bring in young talent. Like men's basketball, they need better depth. That's the biggest thing. Their bench production isn't all that incredible. Like they have Dylan Miller playing decent minutes. Ryan Prather sometimes comes off the bench. Ishmael Plett does well. Other than that, Toole plays the starters about 30 minutes a game. And it's something that you need moving forward. Like, you need that depth because Cam Woods is a senior. There are a couple players who could possibly leave. So you need to work that transfer portal, work the recruitment to be able to bring more players in. And with the women's basketball, it's kind of the same thing. 8 players this year are either seniors or grad students and could not be back next year. So you need to rely on these younger players like Jenica Suggs, like the Odells, in order to break these teams come back to the Horizon League playoffs every year.
Yeah, I will agree that it's going to determine with some of the portal and who graduates. I think that definitely the women's team might be in a little tougher spot. I know we have some very talented freshmen and some transfers from Pitt already coming in. But I think, yes, I mean, we had 2 new coaches this year for the Colonials, one for the women's girls soccer team and the women's basketball team. Michelle Rick took the women's soccer team the Horizon League semifinal, which they were not projected to be anything that good this season. The men's side won the Horizon League title for soccer under his second season, Jonathan Potter. You know, he as we see here, you know, we got some of the we're bringing in players under these new coaches, and they're making impacts instantly. Now, I hope that some of the stars on some of these teams, like maybe Amarian Dickerson for basketball, if he gets looks from some of the bigger schools because of his production this year. No one would have thought that a guy from JUCO is going to be this type of player for a D1 team. And looking at the women's cross-country team, they were Horizon League champions too this year. So I think this year is definitely a once every couple years, a school has very successful programs in 1 year. But I think if we got some younger guys on a lot of these teams, lots of younger guys and girls on these teams that I think could, you know, bring more success to these programs. But I think I will agree with you that it's going to be the transfer portal, and now with people leaving left and right.
Yeah, one thing that kind of concerns me just a little bit is the fact that RMU men's basketball has been in the Horizon League. We're going to touch on men's basketball a bit more.
Yeah.
That men's basketball has been in the Horizon League since 2020, and this is the first year that they've really made an impact on the Horizon League. It's the first year they've had a first-round playoff bye. It's the first time they've won the Horizon League in the regular season, and it's one of the first times they've had an above 500 record. Now, they were in the NEC before that, and they did pretty well. They made March Madness in 2010, 2015. They would have made it in 2020 if it wasn't for COVID, and here we are in 2025. So historically speaking, it appears to be like a once in every 5 years type of thing for the men's basketball team, for them to make a March Madness or the tournament. But with this team moving forward, as long as they can contribute, keep going, it's looking good.
I mean, also something to think about is maybe like these 2 teams have brought eyes to the school. Maybe a thing that somebody wouldn't even consider coming here for either signing as a high schooler coming here for their freshman year, or maybe even transferring here. It's something we can think about too, as well as you can build depth.
Yeah.
Like you can coach these players, and I think these 2 coaches are going to be key to running this thing up once again. But so now this team has potential depth, right? Players all around stepping up from the bench, from anywhere. But the 2 players we need to highlight from this men's team, Aval Fulgaris and Amarian Dickerson. These guys are both having career seasons. And the looming question with the transfer portal opening up on March 24th, like we've alluded to, will these guys or any other people be in new threads next year, or will they stay loyal to the Colonials? Joey, what do you think?
It hurts me to say this, boys, but they're probably gone. They're probably good as gone now. I mean, I might start crying because I love this team. I love these 2 young men, how good they've been playing this year. You know, I want them to stay. I know all 3 of us want them to stay. This is one of the best Colonial teams in program history, but I just think with the transfer portal being as open as it is now, and you could leave middle of the season if you want, and then potentially sign on and then be with the team the rest of the year, and then for the next year. I just think there's so many openings with the transfer portal that with these guys in NIL, if these boys wanted to leave the school, they will definitely be getting some money. Fulgaris is a sophomore, second scoring in the Horizon League on the team. Horizon League Player of the Year. Dickerson is a junior, 3rd in scoring, 2nd team the Horizon League, and Defensive Player of the Year. And Omo Jaffa as a junior who scored 27 points in his last game. I just think that some of these guys that are stars on this team, I'm scared that they're going to be.
Yeah, I have that fear too. I, however, am going to spin this in a more positive way with especially Amarian Dickerson. The word on the street, from what I've heard, is that Amarian loves it here. especially for a player who's
I would hope
a junior.
so. Yeah,
Started
yeah.
out 2 years in JUCO at Mineral Area Colleges, which is in your area of the woods, northeastern Ohio.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And he's the heart and soul of the team. Like, he's the guy who gets them all fired up. It would be a bad idea for him to walk away. Like, he's built all these connections here. And then Omajafo as well came in from Gannon last year and has been amazing down the stretch. The only player I'm slightly worried about leaving is Alvaro, because he's so young, he's so talented, and he has so much eligibility left. It wouldn't surprise me for a larger school to offer him a certain amount of money, and that's going to be the hardest part. Like, love it or hate it, RMU isn't the biggest destination for NIL. Like, we don't have an insane amount of money to give out that other schools, even in this area, do. So it might come down to a money issue. It could come down to these players to stay to stay in the program that they've built, that they've completely turned around, or move on for more money. And ultimately, it is up to the players.
Yeah, and also another guy I want to touch base on that first clip, DJ Smith. Dog on the court. And I think that as a backup point guard, that's definitely a guy that you would want on your team. And I don't think I think he'd probably stay, which is definitely good for next year if we can bring back some of these guys. I think that his progression over this summer, I think it definitely help us possibly to win another Horizon League regular season title for next year.
Yeah, he's going to be a big part moving forward, because after Cam Woods got hurt so early in the year, he stepped into that starting one guard role,
Yep.
and he's done well. He's earned more minutes and has been a key contributor to the Colonials.
You know, I've said this on multiple different shows. I'm going to say it again. What a time to be alive here on the campus of Robert Morris University. It's been fun, and we are all going to be anxiously waiting those results tomorrow night. But when we come back to Sports Talk in the Burgh, March is here, and the madness is heating up. We take a wider look at the world of college basketball. So don't go away.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back. Dad! You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
There's so many rewards in life. You coming into our home was one of the greatest rewards we could have ever had.
You know, it took 20 years, and I got my third child, who was 17 at the time.
It's so cool to watch the adult that you've become, and you really have done as much for us as you think we've done for you.
Most of my family, they never graduated high school or even let alone go to college, so I'm trying to break that barrier. Every day after work, went straight to school, studied hard, and it paid off. I could not have done it alone. I see the future is really bright for me. The high school diploma is just added to the confidence, and now I feel unstoppable.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Welcome back to Sports Talk in the Burgh. Let's dive into some college basketball. All right, we had our fun with Hoop Township. Now back to your regularly scheduled Burgh programming. Pittsburgh Panthers have not been having as much fun as we have here at Bobby Moe, currently sitting 16-3 overall, but 7-11 in their conference, and 11th overall in the Atlantic Coast. Safe to say, something needs changed. Could that change be moving on from Jeff Capel? Caden, what do you think about this?
You see, as someone who grew up as a fan that is so diametrically opposed to everything Pitt, go Mountaineers, by the way, I don't want them to move on from him. The Pitt, he came into Pitt in 2018, and every single year they've never had it below a 40% winning percentage. They've never had above 66. Like, this team is so perfectly mediocre. It's in their 7th season as a head coach. Like I said, perfectly mediocre. They have a .518 winning percentage. They're 7-11 in the ACC, which is 11th in the conference. And they've only had one NCAA tournament appearance, which I believe was last season. And he signed through the end of the decade, which is a long, long time for a guy who has had very little results. Like I said, this Pitt team, it's just mediocre. Nothing good, nothing bad. And that's the worst spot to be in as a sports fan and as a sports team. No one takes you seriously enough to win, but no one thinks you're bad enough to be at the bottom of your conference.
Yeah. I mean, see, I don't think they should fire him, but also at the same time, like you're saying mediocre. Why would you want a mediocre team? Why would, if you were as a university, as a program, why would you want to keep a guy that has kept your team mediocre? Wouldn't you want to elevate like your program to a higher level, especially in this ACC, which I think is personally I think it's weak outside their top 3. So I think this was definitely a year that they possibly could have made a run in this ACC kind of the regular season standings. Now, I mean, definitely the tournament's still coming around. It's March. Anything can happen. I don't think you should fire him just because I think it is hard to find a consistency. But at the same time, if we're looking at it as a way that they're mediocre, then I think it's time for Pitt, like, hey, maybe we need to get rid of this guy because we need this program to shift shift its thing. I mean, I don't know.
You know, I'm going to ask a little bit of an impulsive question here. Maybe it's my tie to the Burgh, and I believe black and gold, but is this like kind of like a Mike Thomas situation here, where they're not
yes.
good, but they're not bad,
Yes.
and maybe it's just time to move on from the coach?
Yes.
Kind of similar, but in the way Jeff Capel has done absolutely nothing at Pitt. Like,
So has Mike Tomlin.
yeah,
over
Mike
the last
Tomlin
Mike
couple
Tomlin
years.
at least
What
won.
has he done the last
He at
couple
least won a
years?
Super Bowl back in the old days. You can say that. You can't say that
What
about
did you
Jeff Capel.
repeat what you said.
Tomlin at least won a Super Bowl back then. You cannot even
back
say
then,
that
back
about
then,
Jeff Capel.
back then.
This isn't a
You
Tomlin
said-
show. This is
That's
basketball.
right. This is
You
But-
said back then.
But still, at least Tomlin has that
You know,
credibility in the
back then,
past.
back then, Capel went to the Elite Eight with Oklahoma. What, are we just going to say that he's still a great coach? He's okay. He's mediocre.
All right, you know, that one was my bad a little bit. I may have stirred the pot a little bit on that one. Let's get things back into gear here. So from moving away from the Burgh down to North Carolina, Duke is having much better days than Pitt, sitting first in the Atlantic Coast, nearly undefeated in the conference, tallying an 18-1 record. Part of that has been thanks to freshman guard and forward Cooper Flagg. So the question is, can this guy carry the Blue Devils to a natty title? Joey, you start.
Yes, I mean, he's scoring 20 points a game. He's arguably the best player in college basketball. But, like I said last take, the ACC is weak. We see here his stats are amazing. Duke's doing really good right now. He's projected to be the #1 pick, but the ACC is weak. The last 18 or so games, I forget how many teams are in the ACC, they have been okay matchups. Clemson's been pretty good, and Louisville's been pretty good this year. I just don't think that their preparation towards this March Madness tournament is going to lead to any success. And there's been a lot of good Duke teams in the past. You know, the Zion year with R.J. Barrett and Cam Reddish, they were projected to win the title. They didn't. In 2024, they lost to number 11 NC State. In 2022, they lost to North Carolina, as North Carolina was the 8th seed, and then in 2017, they lost to South Carolina as a 7th seed. So no, I don't think he's gonna carry them.
Once again, I'm a little bit more optimistic on them. Like Cooper Flagg, he's probably the best college basketball player in the country, and that's something.
That's fair.
That's definitely something.
Fair to say.
They beat Auburn early in the year, who's #1, although they lost to one of the Texas teams a couple days ago, so that might change. But Cooper Flagg has just been a dog. You can see him here taking it all the way up the court as a 6'8" height and dunking all over a player against Pitt, which we talked about earlier. That's
against a
something
mediocre
special.
team.
That's still something special. It's
March
still,
Madness,
you
we
play
want-
the teams in front of you. But I will say, this Duke team, their record is a little bit deceiving. They have lost to some bad teams like Kentucky. They lost to Kentucky early in the year by double digits. And that's just not, like I said, earlier in the year, they've been fantastic since then, but it's still not something that you want to have on your record. And also, it's important to note out that teams that have been projected #1 prospect for the NBA, they usually don't do all that well in March Madness. The last time that a team who had the by far #1 prospect in the NBA really went far and won the Natty was Kentucky back in 2012 with Anthony Davis. Like ever since then, like you touched on, that Duke team, even in 2019, was Zion, R.J. Barrett, Cam Reddish, the top 3 prospects from the previous year, didn't even make it to the championship game.
Duke may not. They may not be like that anymore. They might not be that team anymore. I don't know.
Coach K's gone. Is the aura gone?
How many
be.
stars have they had, and they haven't won? They haven't flipped any of that talent into success.
I mean, we've seen this in other sports where maybe not the best person can lead you to a ship. Like, for instance, for hockey, for example. Sorry, take it back to my Burgh roots. Sid, and the Pens. Sorry. All right. We'll move on here. We're talking about basketball today. So for the last question before we take it to another break, let's take a wider look at things. And I'm going to go straight to the point here. Power 4 titles, excuse me. Can we see an upset? Who are your dark horse picks to win one this year? Caden, you go ahead and start, and you see you're scheming over here.
I have been waiting all year for this moment. West, by God, Virginia is going to win the Big 12. They're currently 9-10 in conference, 18-13 overall, 8th in the conference, which gives them a first-round bye in tournament play. But this team has been different. Since Bob Huggins was fired back in 2022, they were awful last year, had below 10 wins. But they played completely different under Darian DeVries in his first year as head coach. Devon Small is averaging near 20 points per game. Tucker DeVries is averaging 15 points and 7 rebounds. They've been fantastic. But the defense, oh my goodness, the defense. They're allowing 64.7 points per game, the best since 2009 and second in the conference. They're the best three-point defense in the Big 12, on which they're holding teams to under 30% per game. They have the second best field goal percentage allowed, 40%, over 10 stocks a game. Causing about plus 2 turnover differential. Q Country Roads. Q Country Roads.
Nope. See,
No.
my pick, the right pick, BYU.
Oh my God, really?
7 in a row.
A team that hasn't
7
done
in a row.
anything since Jimmer Fredette was there. Really?
Guess what? Hey, it's a new year. 8-2 in the last 10. You know, you want a team, like I said earlier with the Colonials, you want a hot team going to the tournament. This team is hot. They have upset the number 23 seed, 23 team in the country, and the 19 team in the country. Richie Sanders, dog, 16 points and 4.5 rebounds a game. They're 6'8", 230-pound machine. Kiba Kieta, 7 points and 8 rebounds. This man, you do not want to run into this man because he is going to obliterate any big man you have, especially any of your West Virginia big men who will not be making the tournament this year.
Okay, before I get to my pick real quick, I'm sorry, I just need to mention how ugly those gray West Virginia jerseys
Those are hideous.
Why coming after me about the team's jerseys? We're talking about the teams, not their aesthetic.
I'm sorry. Okay, let me get to my pick here. I'm gonna go with Maryland here. I think Maryland has a decent chance to win the Big Ten here. Sitting at 22-7 overall, 12-6 in a feisty Big Ten. I think there's a chance they could win this thing. They average 82 points per game, 23rd nationally, which isn't horrible, 66.9 points per game against them. So they've been holding their own against some of these teams. Derek Queen, dog. 15.9 points per game for him, 9.1 rebounds. I mean, last year they were 15-16. They've had a huge turnaround. I think I have faith in this team.
That team's a puppy. They're not a dog. They're not a dog like the BYU Cougars.
Paper tiger.
Oh, all right. Let's take a drink of water. Let's calm down. Get the heartbeat slowing down a little bit because whenever we come back, Caden is going to have his usual yap sesh breaking down his starting 5, but with a Burgh twist. So don't go anywhere.
If you love them enough to suck the snot out of their nose at 4 a.m., then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Today, we face an unprecedented crisis. Tens of millions of refugees have been forced from their homes. But you can make a difference. Turn disruption and despair to hope and opportunity. Even small amounts make a big difference. Provide shelter, support, or jobs in your community. The more we understand, the greater sense of belonging we create. Act now. Visit supportcrisisrelief.org.
I don't want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it.
Families don't have to talk about everything, but they should talk about how to plan for an emergency. Get tips and resources to make your family's emergency plan.
Welcome back to Sports Talk in the Burgh. Caden is here to break down his starting 5. But Caden, your task, you have to use the Buccos organization. All right, Caden, the floor is yours.
All right, guys, it's that time of year again. It's time for the Pirates to be competitive and make some noise in the Central and every other soundbite we hear every year before the Buccos eventually finish 5 games below 500 again. Maybe it's time for something different. Now, way back in the olden days, the Steel City had a professional basketball team, also named the Pittsburgh Pirates. If this team were to return, who would be a part of the Pirates' hardwood starting 5? Let's get into it. Now, starting with the point guard, who's the quarterback of the offense, and historically has been the player to lead the team in assists. So obviously, I'm putting the young stud Paul Skeens at the 1. Ball movement is incredibly important to modern basketball. And not only Skeens is a fantastic thrower of the ball, as we all know, he's also a massive 6'6", 235, allowing him to take advantage of smaller guards to attack the paint, as well as being a major defensive asset. With Paul Skeens quarterbacking this offense, it'll be very hard to deny the passes from up top. At the shooting guard, we have Brian Reynolds. Reynolds is an excellent outfielder and hitter, which makes him a two-way player on the court and on the diamond. His ability to track down balls in the air will translate onto the court, making opposing teams hesitant to pass it in his direction, without risking an easy steal. There's nothing more valuable in the NBA right now than a two-way wing, and Bryant's point-of-attack defense will make this backcourt hard to score on. Reynolds is going to be in the Burgh for a long time as well, after signing an 8-year, $106 million contract back in April of 2023, making him a building block for this team for years to come. The small forward is going to be held down by Andrew McCutcheon. While he may be past his prime, he brings much-needed experience to this team. Looking at the NBA's recent champion, each one has an unk on their team with tons of playoff experience. Last year's Celtics, it was Al Horford. The Nuggets, it was Jeff Green. The Warriors had their whole 2010s dynasty. And of course, the Lakers and Cavaliers had LeBron, Raymond James. There is a reason why the OKC Thunder, despite having the deepest roster in the NBA and being the best in the West last year, they lost in the second round to an experienced Mavericks team. They just didn't have strong veteran leadership. Now, he may not be the MVP player he was a year ago, but as long as Kutch can still hit his threes at a respectable rate and can bring his 16 years of experience, he will have a spot on this team. The power forward is up next, and usually the strongest people and among the tallest on the court. So why not put the 6'7", 220-pound shortstop at the 4? O'Neal Cruz is a physical freak, and despite his size, he also has a crazy vertical leap and speed to add a fast break spark to this lineup. Much like Giannis Antetokounmpo, the best power forward in the NBA. Cruz's versatility will add even more defensive upside to this roster, and a lineup where nearly every player can switch defensively onto any offensive player is a nightmare for opposing coaches. And offensively, Skeens to Cruz lobs will feed families this season. Now, to round out this roster, we have the center. Centers are the tallest players on the team and are responsible for protecting the basket and contesting drivers and post-ups alike. They need strength, length, and fancy footwork to perform to the best of their ability. Absolutely none of these things describe Mr. Bob Nutting. Bob owns the Pirates and would probably sell his own right arm for a $5 discount. Ever since the Pirates came to his ownership in 1996, they've only won a singular playoff series and are historically among the league's worst and cheapest teams, routinely getting rid of great players such as Kutch, Garrett Cole, Josh Bell, and Josh Harrison just to save a few dollars. I put Nutting at the 5 so someone, whether it be Victor Wembanyama, Jokic, Embiid, heck even Mitchell Robinson or DeAndre Ayton, will absolutely poster this man so hard he becomes physically unable to run the team. Bob, we come from the same hometown, and you make me embarrassed to be a Wheelingite. Sell the team, Bob. Sell the team.
You know what, Joe, I'm gonna go to you first. I was honestly looking at you when I was looking at Katie, just make different faces.
Can we put this graphic back up on the screen?
Oh,
just to recap some of these picks. I will start. I don't know. I don't know about the point guard. Really, Skeens. I thought Skeens would have been a great pick for a power forward.
Hey, Skeens is the one running. Skeens is definitely the one running this team.
Why would you waste a spot on the team?
I told you why Nutting's on this team.
Why would you waste a spot on the team?
If Nutting gets injured, it'll be an asset to all users around the world.
5'8", I guess.
Sometimes you gotta embrace the tank and just let Bob Nutting get
maybe a
smacked.
5'8" scrub as a Nutting. Move Cruz to your center, Skeens to your power forward. I don't know who you want to put at your point guard. I mean, I'll agree with your 2 and 3. Those are two pretty good.
But I have to say, that's why I put Skeens on there. He's a great pitcher, and what do pitchers do? Throw the ball.
He's such a big dude. Skeens is like almost 20 pounds heavier than.
He also was a big point guard and did really well. Magic Johnson, at worst, second best point guard in NBA history. And what was he? He was 6'5". People said he couldn't be a point guard when he came into the league. He's a Hall of Famer.
He was a champion, though. What has Skeens done? Nothing?
Skeens has been fantastic. What do you mean what has Skeens done? He won the college baseball World Series at LSU. The only reason he hasn't won anything else is because the Pirates are a dumpster fire under Bob Nutting.
Also quick, Brett, I'll let you talk. Don't ever call LeBron James unk again. I did not like that comment.
He's the youngest player in the league. He's still good, but he's an unk.
Okay, Kaden, I need to fit this in here before you gotta go, but where was Vogelbach? How do you leave that dog off?
He is the heart and soul of this team. He'll be coming off the bench and providing valuable points.
Okay, well, we got to get out of here. Thank you so much for joining us today on Sports Talk in the Burgh, and we will see you next time.